Ask you a question. There's very few people that have been described as 10,000x engineers, probably in general, but also extremely, extremely few people who've done that and also been good at enterprise sales. Okay? And I think one of the things that'll be fun today is we can be highfalutin and talk about where the world's going, but we can also talk about how to sell things. And so the question I have before we get to tactical advice on that is what made you even think that you could do something other than just be an amazing engineer?
Yeah, I actually think this is one of the greatest challenges to overcome as an entrepreneur. This is really reductive, but I think if you talk to an entrepreneur, they often have some unique insight on the business they're creating. So maybe it's a technical insight. If they come from a background in, say, business development, maybe they see an opportunity in the market that they can take advantage of as a partnership or business opportunity. In the financial services industry, maybe you see an inefficiency in the market you can take advantage of. The issue I see with a lot of entrepreneurs is you sort of become single issue voters. It's like every time there's a problem in your business, if you're a product person, you go change the product. There's always the famed redesign, the dead cat bounce before your company gets destroyed. And it turns out that as you're growing your business, at any given point, you may have a go-to-market problem, you have a product problem, you have a competitive problem. And I think the hardest thing is when you come at a business with what you're comfortable with, you regress to sort of what makes you comfortable. For me, my most vulnerable moment was when I was 29, I became the CTO of Facebook. I was one of the older people at Facebook at the time.
All good. Yeah.
Well, and I didn't know what I was about to cuss. I shouldn't cuss. I didn't know what I was doing.
It's totally fine.
You told me it was recorded. I have to
I did say, I think that you should not give away state secrets about OpenAI.
Yeah, okay. Well,
you can curse. It's fine. It's good.
And I wouldn't have self-described that I was sort of struggling in my job, but I think I was sort of trying to do everything myself. And Sheryl Sandberg, who was the chief operating officer at the time, took me aside and kind of had a sort of come to Jesus conversation with me, essentially saying, you need to hold your team to as high of a standard as you hold yourself. You need to stop trying to do the work yourself, and you need to identify the people who aren't meeting your needs, replace them, but you're not scaling the way you're operating effectively. And it was kind of the conversation I needed to have at that moment. I felt really shitty for about an hour and then woke up the next day with kind of a fire in my belly. And I realized upon reflection, she didn't sort of diagnose it this way, but upon my reflection, I was going into work every day and trying to say, how do I conform this job to me and my strengths? And instead of thinking what's the most important thing to do in this job today, even if it's not something I find delightful or interesting. So I sort of came at the job and I always modeled it as giving myself advice. I was sort of my own board of directors. And sometimes it would be people, sometimes it would be business, sometimes it would be technology. I was the CTO, so